Good evening. It's nice to see you all. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about, there's this way in which we can approach our meditation practice in a similar way that we approach everything else in our life, everything else that we've done, with a certain amount of striving and like just kind of like goal-oriented. I got to get this thing. I got to get more peace. I got to get more freedom. I got to get more ease. Hurry. It's this way there can be a certain amount of pushing. I mean, of course we might say, of course we are, because this is a way in which we can push towards other goals in our lives, whether it's professional goals or maybe there's a time which some academic goals or maybe fitness goals, all these types of things which we might do. And we have a certain amount of striving. But what's a little bit different with meditation practice is that often with this striving, we're not noticing that what's happening is often there's this measuring that's happening. Am I there yet? Have I gotten there yet? Am I peaceful yet? Is this easeful? Is the mind settled? Am I happy yet? There's this certain measuring. And if there's measuring, that means you're not there yet. So there's always this sense of lack. And this is subtle, but it's something that's getting reinforced again and again. If we have this sense, oh, I gotta be somewhere else, I gotta have some other experience. And then suddenly what's happening right then is the wrong experience, whatever it is, because it's not the one that we had in this goal. And not only that, it can go further. It can have this sense of this, well, there's something wrong with me, or this sense of inadequacy. In fact, we could say that happens anytime there's a recurring measuring of oneself or one's experience. And so having this, like wanting to push towards a goal creates the conditions in which this is subtle, this isn't necessarily obvious, but there's this always sense of like, oh, I'm not there yet. And there's something maybe wrong with this moment because it's not that other moment that I've dreamed up and am aiming towards. And there's this sense of inadequacy or insufficiency about oneself often shows up. And that, of course, is creating the conditions in which there isn't peace and ease and freedom. So there's this way in which we aren't maybe noticing the way that we're approaching our meditation practice is creating the conditions in which there isn't as much settling or peace and ease that might otherwise be. And so maybe in addition to what I was saying, if we have this kind of like striving and this real strong goal orientation, I don't want to say there's anything wrong with having goals, but in particular if we're bringing this sense to our meditation practice, also implicit in this, which can be subtle, is the sense of, I'm going to get it later. This sense of ease or happiness or whatever it'll happen later. It'll happen later. Again, kind of taking us away from this present moment. So if there's a sense of this present moment isn't right and that something better is going to happen in the future, this kind of disconnects us from what's actually happening this moment. And that's so much what meditation practice is about, right? It's just to be here for this moment. It's to be with whatever our experience is. To be present for whatever is arising. We would say this is what mindfulness is just to be able to meet each moment with some awareness, not being lost in thoughts or completely disconnected. And I think many of you won't be surprised if I say that I have a poem by Rosemerry Trommer. She's so great. And it's called Waking Up. And at the beginning of the poem, she has a epigram, and it's a quote from John Tarrant, who is a Zen teacher. And I think it's called epigram, those little thing that's often at the foot, at the top of a chapter. She says, so John Tarrant, the Zen teacher, is saying, wait a minute, what if this is it? So Rosemerry Trommer is writing a poem in response to this. It's called Waking Up. This is it, I think, as I lie in bed, not wanting to leave the warmth. This is it, my feet meet the cold wood. This is it, I water the orchid. This is it, I boil water, make tea. I think I'll be a better person tomorrow. This is it, me dreaming of fresh starts. This is it, defuzzing the sweater. This is it, paying bills, answering mail, frying eggs, washing pans. No life but this one. No fresh start but here. This is it, the cat sits on my papers. This is it, the phone doesn't ring. This is it, the floors need mopping. The letter needs written, the class needs planned. This is it, me wishing I could be more perfect. This is it, this only this. This is it, this flutter in my chest when the sun enters the room, the natural leaning toward the light. This is it, this silence, this cold, this warmth, this longing, this song on my lips. So Waking Up by Rosemerry Trommer. She's pointing to being present for every experience. I was talking about having these goals during meditation practice, and she's pointing to just be present for your whole life, whatever's happening. I love this line, defuzzing the sweater. It's like such a, I don't know, it's kind of a funny thing. Such a mundane thing, but it's also just this recognition of something so simple, and maybe it represents taking care of ourselves in some kind of way, defuzzing the sweater. Just to be present for that. But something that I really appreciate about this poem is that there's no sense of like hurriedness. There's no sense of like something else should be happening, or there's no sense of trying to get somewhere. This is just ordinary things, watering the orchid, frying the eggs, washing the pans. So there's also a sense of ease, not so much of a sense of striving, but just like, okay, this is the next thing that's arising. Can we meet it? Can we be present for it? Sometimes we think like mindfulness practice or whatever practice we should be doing is, should happen in a special meditation posture, sit on the floor or some kind of way. And this poem is called Waking Up. And I love how she does a little play on words. It begins with, this is it, I think, as I lie in bed, not wanting to leave the warmth. So this is her literally like waking up from sleep, but also this waking up to each moment, to one's life. Otherwise, we're always trying to be somewhere else or be someone else or do something else, and our life is passing us by while we're busy trying to go find this peace and ease and freedom. There's a few more things about this poem I'd like to highlight. I appreciate this first line. It says, this is it, I think, as I lie in bed, not wanting to leave the warmth. She's recognizing this mental attitude, not wanting. So often we are just don't even notice this. We're not even tuned in or sensitive to this. But she's recognizing, oh yeah, there's this resistance to what's going to come next, or this pushing away, or maybe just generally not wanting to do something, not wanting to leave the warmth. But then she does. Then the next line is that, but my feet meet the cold wood. And then we might even say in this poem that there's just a little bit of walking meditation. Those of you who are here on Wednesday mornings, or have done day-longs on Saturdays, or have done residential retreats, know that in addition to sitting meditation, there's walking meditation. And she's talking about this, when her feet meet the cold wood. So often with walking meditation, it's just feeling the pressure on the bottom of our feet while we're just doing ordinary things, walking and watering the orchid. And then there's this something here that I think is just fantastic. She has this line, I think I'll be a better person tomorrow. I think I'll be a better person tomorrow. Okay, I'll take care of all these things that will support me having more peace, ease, and freedom later. I'll take care of that later. But then the next line, she says, this is it, me dreaming of fresh starts. So then again, she's recognizing, oh yeah, okay, the mind was drifting off and thinking like, okay, tomorrow things are going to be different. Maybe fantasizing. And then she comes back, no, this is it. Just recognizing that, in fact, this is what the mind was doing. It was off fantasizing or about being a better self. So often when we have a meditation practice, or we have this idea of being present for whatever our experience is, we often aren't thinking about being present of not only the specific contents of our thoughts, but of the way the maybe type or category. Earlier she was having like not wanting. There was this like subtle sense of resistance. And here she's pointing about, I think I'll be a better person tomorrow. There's this also a little bit of resistance, like, okay, it's not going to happen now, it's going to happen later. But this idea of, what is it? This is it, me dreaming of fresh starts. So kind of like fantasizing. I just appreciate that she's, through all these lists of things that are happening through the day, some of them are her mental states, this maybe flavor of the state. So this whole idea of just being present with whatever our life is doing. Rosemerry Trommer, she's having all these lists of ordinary things. So often with this, in this tradition and this lineage, we practice to be with sensations of breathing. Is often, if I were to sit up here and to give a guided meditation, I would start us probably with mindfulness of the breath or mindfulness of the body, the bodily sensations. Different days I would do it differently, and this when I was doing a lot of guided meditations, I would do it that way. But sometimes what we don't point out so much is that in meditation, just like in daily life, we can open up our experience. So maybe we're just with the breath or bodily experiences, feeling the pressure of the chair or cushion against the body, for example. And then just open it up after there's a little bit of settledness happening to just be with whatever's arising, including this, I'll be a better person tomorrow. And then noticing, oh yeah, this is it, me dreaming of fresh starts. Just noticing, oh yeah, the mind is going there and coming back. And just noticing, yep, that was the mind doing whatever it was doing. Because sometimes we have this idea that to be present is to be present with like clear, tangible experiences that have edges, that have a beginning and an end, and some way in which it's very clear. But I'm pointing to something that's a little more diffuse and maybe even subtle or even vague or maybe unclear in some kind of way. So there's this whole idea of being present as a support for having this is it, often what we're looking for, often is actually instead here. And then there's this idea that we have in this Buddhist tradition about taking refuge. Often it's in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But just even this whole idea, where is it that we find safety? Where is it that we feel protected in some kind of way? Because this whole idea of refuge is a place where there can be some safety, and we can find that being in the present moment has a certain amount of safety. Like to just be here with what we're experiencing in this moment. In a simple, easeful way, as best we can, is a way in which we can notice how so much of what we're afraid of or what's maybe exacerbating is our thoughts, our ideas about things, or our beliefs about things, but actually the experience that's happening right now can just be this experience that's happening right now. So I like this notion of refuge and maybe safety as maybe like sitting underneath a big giant tree. Maybe a tree that has big limbs on it. And maybe there's some rain outside and you find yourself underneath a tree. So you're protected in some kind of way, but it's not like you're completely separate and isolated. I'm hoping that this sound is not something problematic. No, you feel I don't think you need to. Thank you, though. Yeah, you can maybe, Jim, thank you. Just want to make sure that whatever it is that's happening out there is not something that we need to, do something about. So this idea of sheltering under a large ancient tree, one thing that I like about it is, like, chances are you'll get a little bit wet, less wet than if you were out there, but you're not disconnected from what's happening. You're still experiencing what's happening, but there's also a certain amount of feeling protected and sheltered as well. Because sometimes we feel like, in order to be safe, I have to completely remove myself and create a barrier between me and whatever it is feeling threatening. But in this way, this idea like, no, I can still be I can be here, but also feel a certain amount of shelter with these branches that are reaching out. And plus, there's something about just being with trees that can be some uplift in the heart. I know for me it's that way. Having spent some time with trees today, there's something beautiful about it. And we're so lucky, right, to live here in an area where there's redwood trees and oak trees and so many beautiful trees. This way of, feeling the steadiness maybe that they offer. It's a certain kind of refuge. But also we could say that going for refuge, like even this recognition that to want to be I'm using this word protection or safety. I'm not sure these are the right words. But maybe there is something within you that feels like this movement in towards that direction, it's often found in the heart. It's like this heartfelt movement towards, I'm going to go in this direction where there's recognition of more ease or more peace. This can be something that we'd want to do like wholeheartedly, or maybe the heart is touched in some kind of way. We want to go refuge in this direction. But I would say that I'm saying like going this direction, another word we could use is like having this orientation. And I'd like to suggest here that we could have this orientation towards being in the present moment and as a place for refuge. And refuge is direction. We can think of this idea of going for refuge as this turning towards in this particular way. And maybe this gets highlighted if we talk about it's the opposite of feeling lost. It's the opposite of feeling like there's no, like I don't know what to do and which direction, and feeling completely disoriented. It's more like, okay, maybe everything isn't clear yet, but I know that this direction is towards greater, I'm using these words, peace, ease, freedom, well-being, happiness. And there's this way that when we're present for our lives, it does bring this kind of safety and well-being. I know that I've certainly have spent so many years of my life not being present, trying to be anything but present, trying to get out there and make something happen, or just distracting myself or entertaining myself in some kind of ways. And there's this way in which we can kind of get in this habit, or maybe this way of this, it just becomes, I don't know, to just not, to be disconnected, to be not connected with ourselves. It becomes just the way we think that life is about, or it just, maybe there's not as much energy towards just being with our experiences. And when I say experiences, I'm pointing to often something very simple, just like sense experiences, feeling for me, I'm feeling like the fabric that are underneath my hands here, sounds, that car leaving, visual field, seeing what's in front of me here. Our experiences can be this simple. And just coming back again and again to our sense experiences. This is a way to show up for our lives, to have some refuge, is to just be with our experiences. And then there's a way in which the mind is going to protest that, no. It can't be that simple. There has to be, more. There has to be something about this. It has to mean something. But what would it be like to just be completely embodied with our life? We discover that there's actually some uplift that happens in the heart when we can just meeting whatever's arising, just meeting the next moment in whatever way. So is this going for refuge in the present moment is like just orienting towards the present moment, finding the protection, finding the safety in the present moment. And then maybe I'd like to add a little bit more to this. I would say be in the present moment and having this orientation towards not causing harm. Not causing harm for oneself, not causing harm for others. And if you're with the present moment, in the present moment, you start to become more and more sensitive to the harm that's being caused to others and to yourself. And so this, maybe I'm saying and, adding this on top of this, not causing harm, but maybe in some ways it just flows naturally. When you're present, you start to become a little bit more sensitive to like, oh, that felt awkward, that conversation I had with so-and-so, or, oh, it's trying to always look good is exhausting, and it's harmful in some kind of way, the way that I'm getting obsessed about always having to look good, and I don't know, there's so many different ways this can show up. But there's this way towards orienting, towards not causing harm, flows naturally out of being present. Because I would also say that this being present is kind of also what's skillful and helpful and beneficial, the opposite of harm. So these are going together, let's say, our ethical behavior and this choice, this inclination, this orientation towards being with what our experience is. There's this way that just this repeated orientation is transformative. It's so easy to be dismissive of just, okay, I'm going to let go of that thought train and I'm just going to be with this felt experience of the chair or the cushion against the body in this moment. Okay, I'm going to let go of that thought train and just turn towards my thoughts. And there's this way we can think like, surely that can't provide a way towards greater ease and freedom. It turns out it can. It turns out that so much of our suffering is in our thoughts. And taking particular thoughts and holding on to them and thinking like, okay, this one's true. All those other ones that I've been having aren't necessarily true, but this one is true. But what if there's a way in which we just kind of let all of them go and just be with our experience? There might be discomfort in the body. There might be pain. But that's not the same as suffering. The suffering is I gotta get rid of this, I gotta fix it, it's so-and-so's fault, and this is some terrible thing that's gonna happen, and I gotta fix it right now. But can we just be with, yeah, this is uncomfortable, and it feels like this. So this kind of like this refuge, we might say, is this orientation. And orientation, this refuge, finding the refuge in the present moment experience. Sometimes I'm telling people when they're describing some difficulties that they're having in their lives, like I'm telling them, it could be really helpful just to feel your feet on the ground. Just feel your feet on the ground. Just this very simple thing. And that's part of the way that kind of disrupts the momentum of thinking and brings the attention to some tangible felt experience. And often I'm giving this experience because I myself have found this very helpful. Back when I was working and having to attend a lot of meetings and stuff, and I had first heard this idea. And there'd be meetings that were like uncomfortable and like a lot of stuff was happening on and a lot of misbehavior, people blaming other people or whatever. But just this idea of like, oh, just feeling the feet on the ground. And it's like, oh no, I'm actually here in this body. I don't have to get lost in my thoughts and spill out some unskillful language or something like this. So this poem, This Is It. Maybe maybe this is it, orienting towards these ordinary experiences, defuzzing the sweater and watering the orchid. Maybe it's not only a way we could describe some freedom, it's it, what we want, or maybe it's also the way to have this freedom. Maybe it's the goal, the means, maybe they're the same. I'm going to read this poem again. And at the beginning of the poem it says, "Wait a minute, what if this is it?" by John Tarrant. This poem is Waking Up by Rosemerry Trommer. This is it, I think, as I lie in bed not wanting to leave the warmth. This is it, my feet meet the cold wood. This is it, I water the orchid. This is it, I boil water, make tea. I think I'll be a better person tomorrow. This is it, me dreaming of fresh starts. This is it, defuzzing the sweater. This is it, paying bills, answering mail, frying eggs, washing pans. No life but this one. No fresh start but here. This is it, the cat sits on my papers. This is it, the phone doesn't ring. This is it, the floors need mopping. The letter needs written, the class needs planned. This is it, me wishing I could be more perfect. This is it, this only this. This is it, this flutter in my chest when the sun enters the room, the natural leaning toward the light. This is it, this silence, this cold, this warmth, this longing, this song on my lips. Waking Up by Rosemerry Trommer. I think I'll end there, and I'll open it up to see if there are some questions or comments. Thank you. Does anybody have something that they'd like to share, or ask, or a question or comment?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This reminds me of the poem, especially in the theme of your talk about everything is practice, and practice is all the time. You know, and not thinking there's going to be a magic moment where, you know, you're going to feel, you know, enlightened or great joy. I mean, those things will happen, I think, but understand that the practice is so much of the routine and the everyday.
Yeah. Except, you know, I might use a little bit different language because you're saying the practice is the everyday and the routine. But as soon as we use this word practice, we're kind of like separating out, like, okay, here's something that's practice, and then there's everything else. So I think what's being pointed to here is like, it's just our life. And we do have, not to say that we don't have formal meditation practices too, but I think that what's being pointed to here is, yeah, it's just being present for whatever is arising.
Agree.
Great. Thank you, Stan.
Beautiful poem. Every Monday I'm thinking I should buy a copy of this Rosemerry Trommer book.
It's not. Here's the beauty. It's not a book. It's all on the web. Every day she posts a new poem, and so
Online?
online.
Okay.
That's 100% online.
Oh, I can copy them. But what I wanted to say is, as you were reading the poem and saying that I'll be a better person tomorrow, the way I saw it was a little different. That I saw her smiling a little bit with a little impish smile, saying that because we often hoping for a fresh start, thousands of times perhaps, but this time she caught herself. This time she saw what she was doing, so I thought, oh,
Very
So
nice.
I'm not sure that's what she meant, but that's what I heard.
Nice, nice. Thank you, thank you. Like she noticed, like, oh yeah, tomorrow there'll be a fresh start. Nice, thank you. Maybe over here.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a similar thought as you who just spoke, in that maybe I'm a little cynical here, but I thought she was kind of being like a little satirical over how the narrator was like kind of making a big deal out of nothing things, like in the sense that like this is it, like I have to mop right now, like, and maybe I picked that out because I kind of relate, and that when I meditate I sometimes try to like tune into every little thing to the point that it almost feels more artificial and less like the raw experience, more like me trying to pick something out of nothing. And like also with your tone of voice, like this is it, like she's always like unsatisfied with the last thing, and like oh like I kept messing up and doing it wrong, but like now I have this fresh start, but like oh that one didn't work, so this is the real fresh start. Like she kind of keeps being kind of like oh there I had been doing something wrong, and so now like there's something to fix, and so I'll fix it now, but then it's never fixed, which is funny because that's kind of somehow the opposite of the main interpretation, but somehow I feel like both can be true here, that it's like more, I don't know, skeptical, but also more like wholesome, and that in another sense, like how you explained, she really is just like very content with everything.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
experiencing everything. So I don't know, there's kind of two sides to it.
Nice, nice. So you're implying that there was this like, no, not that other one. This is it. Something like this. Oh.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's, I didn't know how to read this. Like this is it. This is it, or this is it. Like how to read this. And I think what you said about my tone of voice is true. Like I could have, we could do this in different ways, the way that it gets read. But
Yeah, I'm not criticizing the way
No,
you
no,
said
no,
it at all.
I know
I thought
this.
it was interesting how it kind of made it seem like very much like always trying to one up the last one, kind of like this is it, like this one. So I don't know.
But and maybe would it discount what had happened before, or like saying, okay, no, sorry, I thought that was it, but that's not. Now this is it.
Yeah, that
Is
was
what
kind of the vibe I got, but
I see.
open to interpretation.
Yeah, right. This is part of the beauty of poetry, right? We don't have to say, no, this is the only one truth here. But I appreciate this little, I'm calling it an epigram, I think it's what it's called. At the beginning, wait a minute, what if this is it? Wait a minute, what if this is it? Like all these other things are that I'm thinking are going to be out there, and saying, well, wait, what if it's right here? Or maybe it could be the next thing. Very nice. Thank you.
Are you familiar with this poet? Apparently you are.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, can you use it? Yes, you do.
There's people online.
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't realize that. Excuse me. Thanks. The reason I asked that, whether or not you were familiar with her is that I'm not. And I'm curious, is she, you've read or heard a lot of her stuff, is she into meditation?
Yes.
So it sounded to me like she probably was, in my interpretation of it, with no knowledge of her, and just in hearing it for the first time, was that she was trying to tell us that each of those things is it. And individually, without all the clutter of the day-to-day, I gotta do this, oh hell, I was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago, and what happens if Mary's still mad at me when I see her this weekend? And, instead of that, just being able to sort of be in the midst of a practice and acknowledge each of those things, as simple as some of them are, making tea, or just the very simple things, to be able to stop everything else and make tea, and that's it. Then the next thing will be it. So it sounded instructive to me, rather than an expression of frustration.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That was the way that I was holding it as well. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have a comment or something? You have one, Jim, and then maybe.
Yeah, this is fairly short. Having the luxury of having a computer right here on the internet, it occurred to me when you were talking about Rosemerry Trommer
Yeah.
that thinking back to the 70s when I took German, that in German, Traum is dream. So I was thinking, Rosemary Dreamer.
Oh, very nice.
I don't know if it's spelled the same.
The spelling is different for her name
Okay,
than
but
the German word.
That was a thought that came. It was it for a while.
Thank you. And I think Peggy behind you had.
It's interesting that about the tree. I love that analogy of refuge under. And a different meditation tradition that I went to this morning, the teacher read a Rosemerry Trommer poem, and I was like, oh my gosh, and it had trees in it too.
Oh,
So
there we go.
it was. It's just cool to me that you both would mention it, and also, I love in this moment, being here with this, and I decided to turn my TV off for a few days, which normally I can never do unless I'm away from home in some lovely place. But so I decided to do that, and what I kind of noticed is a lot of daily activities, I think, oh, this is boring, this is a drag, I got to finish this so I can do this. And when I just stop and kind of be present with what I'm doing, it's not boring anymore, it's actually kind of peaceful and relaxing. So I just wanted to say that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. It turns out that this is exactly what happens, right? If we're just present with what's happening, it turns out to be fine.
Yeah.
It's instead of this sense of we have to be elsewhere or should be elsewhere or having different experiences. Nice.
Yeah, although sometimes some feelings come up. There's some hard things in my life, but it's kind of okay. It's better than when they're at a distance.
Yeah, that's right.
Hope that made sense.
It did. That made sense. Thank you. So maybe one last comment or question? Okay, so wishing you all a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you.